Appreciate that. Did it say that? Yeah, it's recording. Okay. So yeah. Well, as you know, I follow you on Twitter, and we met through Twitter, and I've been following you for a couple weeks now, and I just started getting in data, I would say, this year. But I've played college football. I played JUCO in Minnesota. So yeah, so a little bit about me was I'm 25 years old. I have an associate's degree. I have an associate's degree right now. I'm also I play college football in Minnesota and in Cincinnati. I played D3 and D3 and then JUCO. Well, JUCO then D3. I'm sorry. And then I've been working as a sub and a sub teacher teaching just subbing, I guess, in the city I'm in, and just been being a father. I'm a father as well, so that's been pretty cool.
Cool, man. Where did you play in Minnesota?
So I played at Tasca Community College.
Okay, I grew up in Maplewood, so that's kind of close.
Yeah. I've kind of grown to be I guess a fan of Minnesota and Wisconsin because they're so similar. And my roommate, he's from Wisconsin. He's from La Crosse, Wisconsin, where you went to school at. I saw. And then I guess they end up moving to Detroit Lakes that next year, our sophomore year, Detroit Lakes in Minnesota. And so it was I'm like, okay, this ain't bad, but living out there, I learned a lot. Like, I did ice fishing. I did a lot of hockey. So it was a really good experience for myself. I think anyone that's, who loves to be out of state and things like that should go out of state and should explore that. I think it's a really good, it's really good to be away from home as well too. So, so I enjoy it.
For sure. So yeah, man. So then what is taking you into data science?
Yeah. So with data, what got me to data science and data analytics was I was so fascinated with how just when you're in college, when you're going from high school to college, everything's a lot different. The coverages are different, the calls are much different, and the game is way faster. And and I really didn't like, when you're a player, you kind of you're thinking like a player. You kind of almost you're not sitting back and understanding, why are we running man in the end zone? Why are we running a cover three on second down? Or why are we going heavy on goal line, or little increment things like that? Or it's always, our coach, for some reason we play, he could always predict the first play of the game. And I'm like if you was a betting man, like you could win a lot of money if you could predict. He could predict a play. And I never forget my very first game. He said it's going to be a play action pass. They're going to go deep. They're going to throw it deep on our first play. I'm like, okay, we're all prepared. Okay. So the play happens. The quarterback's doing a play action. I see it. I see this receiver coming my way. It's a slant. It's coming right my way. I get ready to jump it. Quarterbacks look him off, goes the other way, throws a deep touchdown. I'm like, God dang. I'm like, I was ready, but he was supposed to go my way, but he ends up going the other way. And I'm just like, man, the college football just really, it made me have a different appreciation for the game. And just and then learning more about data and going through Thinkful as a data analyst and then watching your YouTube and watching a lot of other people's YouTubes and videos, kind of learning more. It's really like I was watching yours and he was talking about cluster quarterbacks, and I'm like, and to me, first time I heard, I'm like, now the name kind of gives it where you're like, when you think of cluster, you think of like a mess. but in your term, it's not a mess. Like you could say, like you were talking about, the top three cluster quarterbacks in 2017 was Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, and Matt Ryan. And I'm thinking, and I think back like 2017, yeah, like those three were really good, because I think that was the year Matt Ryan went to the Super Bowl and he played Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Am I correct?
I think so. Well, no, 17 was the year after. Um, the 16 was the year Ryan won MVP. 17 he played well, but they weren't quite as good because of the new coach and everything. But
Yeah.
they still made it to the divisional round, the Falcons. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean it was like the clustering idea is like a really natural one, right? For because like I played football in college too, and it's sort of one of those where like they like to group things, right? Like coaches, so they'll say this is an over front, this is an over team, this is an under team,
Yeah.
and this is a even for this is a 3-3-5 defense, this is a 4-2-5 defense,
Yeah.
and like you shouldn't require like human intervention to be able to like say those things. You should in theory just be able to like use data and say, hey, this team does this, right? And like that's, I mean, we're getting closer there obviously,
Hmm.
and clustering can certainly help.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. But yeah, yeah, I was just really fascinated about your work and just data overall. But I just had to tell you my appreciation for it, and that was so. But yeah, to the questions. My first question is, what made you? I guess how did you get into this industry? That would be my first question.
Was a lot different like even 4 or 5 years ago, because it was a lot different 4 or 5 years ago just because the positions were sort of not necessarily as set in stone. Like now, if we hire a data scientist,
Hmm.
um, like that's a person who's already done work on Twitter or has a degree or something. Like by the time we hire this person, we sort of like know. Whereas when I got in, I was just like helping. I was helping to chart games, and then I would get in a like I and I would write an article for the site, and then like the CEO would be like, oh, this is kind of neat, like can you talk to me about what you would do here? And like at the time I was teaching, so like I had free time to sort of like do stuff like this on the side. And so for my first like year and a half at PFF, I was working essentially like part-time on PFF stuff, and you know and then eventually like that became something where I was working on that too much, and then I decided to change and become full time. And that was really it was a different process. Like we'll hire people as contractors now. Like our salary cap person's a contractor, but eventually they end up coming on full time,
Hmm.
and that's a thing. So that's really it's different now. So I would say the path you're taking is for a good one. I would say, obviously, and this is why, like, when I see somebody that like has, football data in their handle, I almost always follow them because I want to see if they come up with some cool work and stuff, I want to be able to promote that. And then if we have a job opening, I want to be able to sort of, hire this person, right? So that's kind of, but my path to the industry was so much different, I think, than the next person's path,
Yeah.
which I think is good. I think the path is more direct, but there's a ton of competing people for it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a catch-22 in some ways.
Hmm. Okay. Now, so if you had to, because you were talking about data and how you got into it. It's kind of like you were saying, like it's almost like a consultant kind of way. Am I correct?
Yeah, I did data collection for the company as like sort of a side gig for like a year and a half, and then eventually I was writing some stuff for like my own fun. Like they weren't paying me to write for the site, And then eventually, like I became like they like reached out to me because of what I was writing, and then I became a consultant after that. And then I stopped collecting data. So that's kind of like the evolution there.
Okay. What resources do you use to stay sharp on your analytics or science?
Well, I think, I mean, honestly, Twitter is one where you just look at what people are doing. I read a lot of like research in other sports. So I read a lot on soccer. I read a lot, less than I'd like to in basketball. And then there are things like opensourcefootball.com where like people will write their research and stuff. And like, that's a pretty cool resource. I I try to take like a data camp course or two every month. I haven't really, when the season's going on, it's really hard to do that, but that's, and then I try to learn a new skill like sort of every single year. So I know like 2 years ago, I learned, text analytics is one of my, one of the things I wanted to work on. And so I learned that. And then, this year I'm thinking about learning some, computer vision or something like that. Like it's always just sort of trying to get better because the state of the art continues to move. Having the best data is obviously always the best thing. But after that, then it's, after that, it's basically like what you can do with the data and the insights you can generate and, the people that you talk to and, what kind of insights they can give you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So would you, as a student, like for me, I'm not a traditional student as like I went to I did go to a 4 year, but I did not finish as I had a child. But as
Right.
some how do you I guess how do you feel about degrees and how like Google's giving certificates for data analytics and Amazon has if you has the AWS course and different things like that. Like, what is your opinion, or how do you feel about companies, hire, I guess, or just your opinion about degrees? Should you have it? Should you not? Because I've been weighing back and forth about going back to school and getting my bachelor's, but I guess I just wanted your opinion on what do you think about degrees?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, um, we had like one of our guys was a he was in school to get his PhD, and we like hired him out of it, and like he decided after like a few years of consulting with us that he just wanted to work for us full time. He didn't want to finish his degree,
Yeah.
and like that's not a big deal because we know that he's good. Like our goal isn't to hire a certain number of people with a certain number of degrees. Our goal is to make money and to to do the best job that we can with the resources we have. So it's not a big deal. I would say like obviously traditional 4 year universities add some value in the sense of how do I say this? So like you get connections that you otherwise wouldn't have. So like you have classmates and you have professors that can write you letters of recommendation and all that. I don't know if non-traditional means get you there. You know what I mean? Like as far as like connections and stuff. But I mean it's not nearly as big of a deal as it usually is.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I'm just curious. Yeah, I was just curious because like I'm like for myself, I'm an up and comer, so I'm not, you know, I guess for me, I'm more sharpening my tools just to be even better at this. Um but as you were saying that, working as a consultant or just being like for me, I was told by through our Thankful program, you're doing data into just to become you're doing so much as you're putting yourself out there. That's why I was told about Medium, I was told about the data science, the Tor data science, GitHub, all those different platforms just to use to kind of put myself out there. Do you feel that those uh, websites and things like that help, or do you not think that those are good, or what's your
No,
take?
I think they're great. No, I think that Medium's like a great place where people like will publish their work. So it's
Mhm.
there's no doubt that like those things have value for sure. Yeah, I mean, I would say that the obvious thing is like no one really cares about sort of people's credentials if they show good work, right? The hardest part about like when I came out with a PhD, right? It's like
Mhm.
I published a paper, maybe two papers by the time I applied for my first academic job. So
Mhm.
like the only thing, so I had those two things, but I also had, my professors could write me letters. Like that was all, because none of your work is really public facing. No one watches you take classes, right? No one
Yeah.
watches you teach and all that kind of stuff. And so like the job application process or the degree seeking process or whatever is very like it has to be streamlined because there's like not really a good way to sort of like to credentialize people, right?
Mhm.
Whereas in football analytics, like there's a ton of publicly available data. There's a lot of ways to get your work out there. So like the degree obviously matters less because I don't have to ask like, okay, where did you go to school? I could literally just ask like, okay, let's show me some of your best work,
Mhm.
and that is that's pretty helpful.
Okay. When you're doing projects, how long do you think it will take you if you were doing how long does it take you to do, I guess, a project if you were doing on your favorite team, for I guess for a position? How many hours do you put in if you're doing just quarterbacks on your favorite team, and I guess what are the steps on and for you to to do it?
I mean, it depends on the project. Early in my career, it took a long time, out, tens of hours to do one project. Now I'm quite a bit better.
Mhm.
Um, I'm quite a bit better. So it just depends upon like, what I'm working on. I mean, this project that I'm working on right now has taken me almost a year. Um,
Wow.
but then there are other projects that'll take me like 2 or 3 days. So it just depends.
Okay. And now, do you just come up with these projects, or do you get it from your job, or how's that work?
A little bit of both. I mean, sometimes we'll have things that just need to be done, and then other times, like it's our group that's doing the R&D,
Hmm.
um, that sort of like knows what it has to get done. So it
Hmm.
really depends. It really depends on the situation as to sort of who's in charge of what, basically.
Hmm. Okay. And as a data analyst, you're working with a lot of people. How many people are you working with, or you're a data analyst and scientist? But or for me, I mean, I guess how many people are you talking to, or are you spending your time your days with? Not in just a general term of your team. Like how many hours are you spending just with your team on different projects?
Well, I would say about 40% of my time is management, and then the rest is working on projects. Maybe a little bit less on management, I would, possibly.
Mhm.
But it's a decent amount of time spent working with other people.
Okay. So for those old school guys that do not like data analytics, or they're like, I remember, well, because I don't know if you know that I live in Cleveland, so I live in Ohio. I'm a big Browns fan, and I was reading an article about this. I was reading an article about how our GM was John Dorsey at the time. He was bumping heads with our analytics department, and how he did not get along with he didn't agree with the analytics, but the analytics were showing him the data, saying that, this is what you should do. This is the guy you should hire. Like, he was supposed to hire Kevin Stefanski. Instead, he hired Freddie Kitchens.
Mm-hmm.
Do you? I guess my question my question is, do you, for those guys like John Dorsey, is it hard to work with them, or is it just, or is it just that they just have to go, like the Browns just have to let them go, or do you think they can be coachable and learn, like, hey, if you look at the data, it shows that this quarterback does well at this and this and this. He doesn't do well at just throwing it 40 times, or what are some of your steps to teaching those so-called dinosaur kind of guys, or those stuck in the old ways, when the NFL is going more towards data? There's a lot of NFL teams that use data.
You just have to. I mean, you have to show some humility. You have to, work within the
Mm-hmm.
constraints that you have, and those people have a ton of useful information for you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, um, you really do have to just like, um, I would say that there are some people that are not salvageable, but there are people who think that way and have really good insights on the game of football. And we would, I think, be remiss if we don't at least, play to their strengths, right? And weigh them properly. I think the issue is obviously always weighing those things properly is really difficult. You know, I know people have great, like, there are pass rushers, for example, who, like, we don't really like, because they don't get a ton of pressure, but, like, a coach can, I think, accurately, understand his get off. Well, how much do you weigh the get off? Is it 25%? Is it 100%? Is it this, that, and the other thing? And those are always, really important things to do.
Okay. Uh, I just have a few more questions. What do you like and dislike about your job? What are some of your, I guess, what are some things that you just like, God, it's just like, boy, I wish I was doing something different, or like, just like, what do you like for me, I work at Best Buy, and I love what I do, but I know that I can't be at Best Buy forever. So what, yeah, just,
Uh, I would say, I mean, it's just that, sometimes, I mean, the hardest part of the job is, by its very nature, you make predictions about things, and even if you're good, like, a great deal of them end up being wrong. So you have to, you have to have thick skin. You have to, you know that's basically it. I mean, like, you make predictions about things and you're constantly humbled. And the good thing is, like, you're in a position to use that information to make yourself smarter. And then the harder part is that, there are constantly situations where you make mistakes, and like, I would say, any job that's worth doing, you're going to be in a position at times you're going to be in a position at time to stick your neck out. And anytime you stick your neck out, um, in a situation, you might make an error, and that is always risky. When I was a professor, there was very, very, like, rarely did I have to put, there weren't a ton of risks, and in some ways, that obviously will make you atrophy as a person, but other time, but there's a safety associated with it too that you don't have, right? So that's a really hard one. Like, this week, like, my colleague said, oh, Pittsburgh's overrated, the most overrated team in the NFL. Well, if Pittsburgh wins the Super Bowl, like, there's a significant risk that, we're going to look like idiots, and that's okay. It's just a game, but it's still not that fun, to have that risk out there.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, I guess for my life, I just got two more questions.
Sure.
Is I don't like this question, but I'm asking anyway. what tips do you have for someone starting out in this field like myself, who's going through this, like not so much a boot camp, but it's a program that you get a certificate at the end of it. I guess what kind of what tips do you have for someone like me?
Well, I think the thing is obviously, stay in the present, work on the problems that you're working on,
Mhm.
like all of the training that you're doing, whether you're a football player that's, doing swim moves, at the beginning of practice, or a mathematician, working on, warm up problems, to, working on your final like capstone project. Like, all these things have value. And I
Mhm.
think if you're in the moment and you're like, okay, you crush sort of every situation you're trying to be in,
Mhm.
um, you'll be good. But also have obviously a look to the future, because there are, um, there are a ton of, there are sort of a ton of ways in which I think people don't see the forest for the trees. Like the stuff that you're going to be learning about, um, the stuff that you're going to be learning about in school, like that's going to be like, data science wasn't a thing when I was in college, right? So
Mhm.
like 10 years from now, there are going to be, things that you're doing that you're not going to be doing now, and so I would say, like, just make sure that you're flexible. Don't get upset. If things change, just change along with them, and you'll be fine.
Okay. Okay. And my last one is, do you attend any like um the what is the it's the analytics conference? Do you attend any of those, the sports analytic conference, or just data scientist conferences? Like, do you go to those to meet, network, and meet different people, or you just go there for for just to learn more things and meet new people?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. I was the plenary speaker at a conference last week. It was pretty fun. You get to meet new people, reconnect with people that you've known for a while.
Mhm.
Those are always good things. So yeah, I mean, anything. I mean, you have to balance, your work with, you know, how much extra stuff you do, but that's part of your job, is to stay up to date on these things. So
Mhm.
it's important.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, this is really good. I wish I had more time. I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I know you're a busy guy. But would it be okay? Would it be okay if I reach out to you in the future and do this again?
Of course.
Oh, great, great. I really appreciate it. Eric, you've been nothing but great, and I really appreciate you doing this, and I really appreciate you've went on and done this